I've got a quick question for you, alright? I wanna hear your thoughts, I wanna know what's on your mind. I've got a quick question for you, alright? The answer's not important, I'm just glad that we could talk tonight. So what's your favourite? How did you get? When will I be remembered? Was it ever? Where did all the other weeks know? Oh, forget it. Soren, Bowie, Daniel O'Brien. Two best friends and comedy writers. If there's an answer, they're gonna find it. I think you'll have a great time here. I think you'll have a great time here.
So, hello again and welcome to another episode of Quick Question with Soren and Record Scratch with Katy and Daniel, joined as never by my co-host for the first time, Ms. Katy Stoll. Katy, empress of a growing podcast and YouTube content network empire. How are you? Say hello.
Hi, hello. Well, out of the gate, I'm doing great. I've never been described as an empress of anything, and I like it. I think it suits me. I feel like I need to dress for the occasion a bit more, but for the future, lean into my new title.
I'm glad to break that seal, and I don't think you need to change because, like, our listeners at home don't know this, but there's like an aesthetic thing going on with what you're wearing and the painting behind you. It's very, very pleasant.
Thank you so much for acknowledging it, noticing it. I love this thing that's behind me, but it's kind of locked me into a color palette that I have to wear whenever there's a camera on. But luckily, this is my color palette that I think I look best in. So.
Let me tell you, this fucking schmuck that I record with every week, sometimes his background is a single plant in a window. Sometimes it's a bunch of paint cans in a filthy garage. And he wears the same fucking 2003 J. Crew shirts like I do every week. And just the fact that I've got someone who's going to like really put in some of the extra effort, it's very nice.
It's
much appreciated. Thanks to Aura for supporting our show. Go to aura.com/protection for a 14-day trial plus a check on your data to see if your personal information has been leaked online. All for free.
So we're talking smack on Soren today?
Yeah, we are. No, we'll get right into the show.
He's not here, I noticed.
He's not here, yeah. The elephant in the room is that we normally record this podcast with Soren because that's what it's called. And
in the title,
he is not here at the moment, so Katy is very kindly filling in on short notice, and we appreciate that very much. She's a longtime friend of ours, and you've heard her on the show before. But elephant in the room, why isn't Soren here? It's because I had to push our normal record date. Why did I have to push it? Because my fiance was out of town and my life falls apart.
I love what you did there, fiance.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. It's going to be harder when she's with Shay. I think that's going to be a tougher sell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
with Shay.
Shafe?
Shafe is better.
Shafe is closer.
It sounds like, I don't know. What came to my mind was like something you would do to get the dead skin off your feet.
Oh,
Shafe something.
That's close. Yeah, I felt like it was prison weapon adjacent.
Or that.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the two. But, romantic either way.
Yeah. Regardless, she was out of town in her hometown, and I was like, it's so humiliating. I was like not sleeping well, and I was not doing great at my
because she was
like
gone?
My job because she was gone, and I'm just like used to her presence here for like sleeping and like keeping me on a normal person schedule. I will say the most surprising, she's back now, so everything's better. I'll say the most surprising, humiliating thing that I did is one of the rules that we both have when the other is out of town is that we're allowed to eat whatever we want with no judgments. And often for me that has meant like too much Chinese food that I will regret.
Always.
But this time it was Taco Bell, and I am very famously lactose intolerant.
Yes,
and so I got Taco Bell anyway because I thought maybe it doesn't count if I do it in private and no one sees me. This is what I mean about my life falling apart, is that I forget like how the body works and the rules of science. I am very much allergic to cheese.
Willfully forget. I would posit, but
even when no one's around, I'm allergic to cheese. So I ate some Taco Bell, got very sick, lost sleep, and my life just fell into like a weird little disaster chunk of time.
I wonder when we outgrow that instinct, because I do it too. It's like, well, there's no one around to see this happen, so it maybe didn't actually happen. It happened, and I felt like shit. And then enough time passes that you forget.
Even if I'm
maybe this time.
Even if I'm just eating a bag of candy in my car, I'm still like, it doesn't count because I'm moving. I'm traveling at great speed.
We're joking, but I did. There was this when I was a kid. You know, I've talked about issues with food and body image that I've struggled with my whole life, and I'm in a good place now. But as a kid, I remember having a very excited conversation with one of my best friends who was in a similar boat, and like very sincerely being like, if no one's around when we eat it, it doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
I was like, yeah, makes sense to me.
I think when enough people independently have the same thought, it can just be a different kind of truth. I think we can say that. I think we're allowed to say like, hey,
that is the world we live in now, Daniel.
That's right.
If enough people just say it, it's true.
That is a world that, I'm assuming all of our listeners know, because the Venn diagram of people who know this show and people who know your work and your shows is a complete circle at this point. We're all expats from crack.com days.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anyone for your show has a wide audience of people who like the news and comedy and perspective. Our show is just like exclusively some people who liked us from Cracked and some of my, but not all, family members.
You get your family members.
Yeah, a few of them. But there's no one who comes to our show who is like, I'm going to check out this show from these two straight whites that I know nothing about. And if someone did stumble upon our show as like an algorithm recommendation, I can't imagine they get anything of value out of it, because like the show is premised on like our friendship and our the laurels that we've been resting on from Cracked. And I think there's some people who might come in and be like, oh, it's a show hosted by two current working comedy writers. Surely they must get into some writing advice. No, almost never.
Absolutely not. Yeah, I had several thoughts. I think that you are very humble. I'm curious I'm sure somebody has stumbled upon this show, but you're right. It is probably family members and Cracked people not looking for advice on writing.
Hopefully.
Just want to hear your guys'. They miss you guys. They want to see you on their YouTube page.
We miss them too. But again, just in case there are some people who don't know you run the very popular Some More News and Even More News.
Yeah.
And I please forgive me. I thought there was a new bonus pod recently launched.
You're correct. Well, we're working on that. See, I always have to hold my horses. I've been wanting to do a new show that's more like this. Cody and I have a different friendship from you and Soren, but also we're friends. We're very different people. We're very similar and very different people. And oftentimes, like, he wants to talk to me about video games, and I'm like, and I talk about whatever bullshit that I've been reading. And we wanted a format for us to be able to discuss things other than the news, because whenever we do that on our show, some people dig it. Yeah. Primarily the people that listen to our shows, watch our shows from Cracked. Other people are like, get to the news. And I'm like, ugh. It's fine. I like talking about the news. I just like talking about other things. So Way Less News is going to be a new thing. And yes, we have started off by releasing it on our Patreon, but my goal is to be releasing it wide. Here's the thing. At a certain point, it's very difficult to scale things. You add one more process to the mix and it throws everything out of whack. Because when we're releasing 2 shows every week, essentially, that's a tight turnaround all the time.
It is, yeah. And you're doing like full productions with your things. And it was when we were trying to schedule this podcast, you said on Mondays we have meetings from something like 11 to 2:30. And I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Meetings. We used to have meetings at Cracked and we had to like regularly make things and keep to a schedule.
I don't know how we did that so much. Like, I don't have the tolerance to sit in hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of meetings like I did before. It's hard enough being in my house doing it.
My arguably greatest or most insufferable business decision when I was at Cracked was because everyone has shared calendars, so we know when everyone is available, I would just book myself in non-specific meetings that people could say, oh, he's busy from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock on Wednesdays, so we can't schedule a meeting. And all I was doing was just reserving a conference room for myself and just shutting out the noise of everyone else. And it was just like, I need to occasionally write things for this website, and I need some like uninterrupted time to do that. And that was the only way I found out how to.
It was impossible, let alone, outside of meetings, it's all open concept and very fun to wander around and do bits with your buds. But at a certain point, you have to do work. Right. You have to write the stuff that we're going to shoot.
Yeah, I think a lot of us would come into the office and like bullshit for several hours and get dragged into bullshit meetings. And then they're like, all right, it's 5 o'clock. Time to go home and work. Time to actually put some pen to paper.
Well, once you get through Thirsty Thursday anyway.
Oh, yeah. That's when the real creative juice flows. But Katie, should we just get into the show? Should we get into the show? Have we not yet?
Yeah, for sure.
Nah, we never.
We got quick questions.
We do. We have quick questions. Hey, quick question for you.
Uh-huh.
What is something you remember having done as a child that in retrospect you think is an incredibly on-brand thing for current you? And I can go first if you would like some time to think.
Oh, I've got an answer.
Oh, she's got an answer, folks.
I do. This is the perfect question, because I was actually telling this story recently. It's a little bit of a story. There's a couple things to this that are very perfectly on brand. First off, when I was about, let's say 10, I lived on a street called Sequoia Avenue, and I decided to start a newspaper for the neighborhood called the Sequoia Subscription. And it was filled with things like, well, it was mostly about my family's news. Every so often it would be another neighbor like, the Thompson family got a new puppy. Let's all say hello to our new neighbor. And then I'd draw a picture of the neighbor. I'd write short stories. I would write short stories for class and then put them in there. I did everything like hand printed it. The title, remember that big S, that Stussy S?
Yeah.
Or was it like, it was a big S, Sequoia Subscription.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did that, and then I would deliver it to everybody's houses. But then we had this oak tree in our backyard, this big oak tree, and our neighbor behind us was threatening to sue us because the roots were disrupting her driveway. And my parents, this has been going on, my parents finally gave in. They're like, okay, we'll remove the tree. And I was furious. So, emergency issue of the Sequoia Subscription, and I'm like, she who will not be named but lives at blah, 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 Sequoia Avenue is tearing down the Stoll family's precious oak tree, home to squirrels and birds alike. There is a protest being staged on whatever day. Please join us. No one joined us. Nobody showed up.
It's very funny. I thought the angle was going to be like you're expressing yourself creatively and being very community minded, which is the on brand thing. But no, it's you're controlling the media so you can accomplish your agenda, just like you're doing now with your news show.
Like I'm doing now. All of that is true. But then, so the tree got. I got it. The tree got it.
Okay, yeah.
Took it down. And the other thing that's very on brand is that I can't stay in a space of negativity for too long. I tend to find the positive. So my whole family's in the backyard after it's gone. And there's just this big trunk, perfectly flat. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it and I go, well, cheer up, folks. At least we have a stage now. And I hopped onto it. So I think that's the most on-brand story I could possibly tell on all angles.
Incredible. That's perfect and delightful. Oh, I love that so much.
Thank you for a perfect and delightful question.
I wasn't going to... So I'm going to talk about two things, because I wasn't going to bring up this one thing, because I don't think I was young enough. I was in college by the time I was doing it, which is too old for like predictive behavior or anything like that. But just because you mentioned making your own newspaper called the Sequoia subscription, when I was in college, I was unhappy with the comedy magazine newspaper that existed at Rutgers at the time. It was called The Medium. It had like great, speaking of roots, and a lot of people left from The Medium to work for The Onion and have great careers. By the time I was in school, it was not, it wasn't great. It was divided up into about half of it was like borderline racist rants that people would like, you know, like how a lot of young white men think, like, I'm going to be provocative, and the most provocative thing any young white man can think of is like I'm going to play a racist character. I'm going to pretend I'm racist, or I'm going to pretend I'm ableist or whatever. That's like the
good
beginning
old
and
days
end.
of comedy.
Yeah, that's when everybody was really firing on all cylinders. But the Medium was half that and half just nothing wrong with it. Pornography. It was just like, this was the comedy newspaper.
Not comedy. Was it comedy porn?
No, it was just like with permission, my girlfriend has allowed me to send you a picture of her breasts, and like. Who knows if permission was actually granted? But this was like, for a soft, sensitive weasel like me, seeing that this was the comedy newspaper, I originally tried to go like the formal route and launch a new newspaper, and got like signatures, got a faculty advisor on it and everything like that. And Rutgers looked at my proposal, and then they said, we already have a comedy newspaper. This isn't different enough on paper from the thing that we have, so we can't like give you any funding for this. And I wanted to say, like, it's very different, because I'm gonna do a different thing. It's gonna be better than that. Like there are lots of magazines that occupy the same space that are allowed to exist, but I understand it's an academic bureaucracy, and we can't have two newspapers that are comedy based. It's simply not allowed.
Yes.
And so what I did was I just started writing my own newsletter that I called, similar to the creativity behind the Sequoia subscription, it was called The Monthly Daniel. And I would just print it out. I would write like very long comedy stories, print them out at great personal cost of printer paper and ink, and then just leave them around campus. Just have them, just like drop stacks of them. There was no way to contact me or to find out the last name of the titular Daniel, and I wasn't really in it for that. I was just like, this is a thing that I think is funny, and it's not allowed to exist here, so I made it exist here. Here it is. I'm gonna drop it next to our proper newspaper, and then not receive any credit or blame.
Did you purposely leave like your last name off because you didn't want to get in trouble?
There was probably an element of that.
Or was that just an oversight?
It was definitely not an oversight. I'm trying to not rewrite my own history, because like the truth is probably I don't want to get in trouble. When I am rewriting my own history, I choose to believe that there's no last name or contact information, because I wanted people to believe that there was just like a weird altruistic comedy person whose sole goal was spreading jokes and fun.
A Robin Hood of comedy.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Of sorts, yeah. But you were basically just doing a Substack to an unwilling audience that hasn't signed up.
Yeah. And it lasted a few issues, and then I was like, I'm a college student, and this is I don't have enough budget for
You're like failing your actual classes. Yeah. I doubt that. Daniel, I'm sure you were a great student.
Oh, thank you. I was fine. College is easy.
I don't know if everyone would say that. Not at Rutgers.
Feels like there's a major leak of personal information every single week. I'm constantly getting emails that are like, hey, insert company name did that, and your information might be leaked out there. Have you read about the recent ones at major phone and healthcare companies? Your information, your full legal name, email, home address, phone numbers, credit card info, and more can be easily found online. Data brokers also get your data legally from public tax records, from credit card companies, cable and internet providers, and sell it to anyone who will buy, even scammers. We did a whole episode about data brokers on the TV show I work for, and it is insidious. It made me never want to sign up for anything or tell anyone my name, even doctors. Aura is a great way to try out a great VPN. We're thrilled to partner with Aura, the all-in-one online safety solution that helps protect your information. Aura is offering you a 14-day trial plus a check of your data to see if your personal information has been leaked online, all for free when you visit aura.com/protection. And that's not all. Aura also monitors identity theft, financial fraud, and other online threats before they happen. With Aura, you can rest easy knowing that someone is looking out for you. And my favorite thing, Aura also helps reduce annoying robocalls, telemarketers, and junk mail by sending takedown requests on your behalf regularly. I get, this is real, probably 4 to 6 robocalls every single day. I answered too many of them, and now they're just the only phone calls I receive, and Aura is going to help me reduce those annoying robocalls, and I'm excited. Hey, if you're looking for a gift for someone in your family, this will be unique and give them the protection they need online. I'm thinking about giving to my parents because all of my other previous attempts to teach them about online security have failed, but Aura makes it easy. I love that Aura alerts me when I click on a link that's not safe. And who hasn't done that? For a limited time, Aura is offering our audience, that's you, a 14-day trial plus a check of your data to see if your personal information has been leaked online, all for free when you visit aura.com/protection. That's AURA.com/protection. Certain terms apply, so be sure to check the site for details. Aura.com/protection. The story that I actually wanted to tell that I don't know if I've told on this podcast, but I've told before, and I don't know if I've told you, is that when I was, this is like, I think creepy behavior. When I was very young, like middle school young, I was molding little figures out of clay that were like, at one point I started and I was like, I'm going to make this video game character that I like out of clay so I could just like have this model. That's a fairly normal thing for a kid to do. And then I was like, no, you know what I actually want to do is I want to mold almost my entire middle school out of clay and just have like teachers and students, just like a shelf of my childhood bedroom was taken up by these clay figures that if my parents thought there was something weird about that, they never brought it up. But I'm sure they walked into my room at some point when I wasn't there and was like, okay, that's definitely Joe. That's definitely Chris. That's his art teacher. This is bad. This is something. We don't know what this is, but it's bad.
When you led off, you're like, oh, it may be slightly creepy. I was like, there's no way. Daniel always has that opinion about. No, but that is a little bit weird. It is. It's certainly.
It's weird enough that I knew not to tell. Like even at 11 or 12 years old, I was like, this isn't. My friends aren't ready for this information.
Which also makes it weirder in a way.
I know.
Because
why am I doing it?
Secret. And then there's like shame attached to it.
Yeah.
You're like, I know I shouldn't be, but I'm going to. I'm obsessed with this idea.
Your least self-aware age in all of time to still be like, no, this is different from the other weird stuff I do. Yeah. This one should stay with me.
Have you always been pretty self-aware? I feel like maybe you have. Like, what age did that kick in?
That's a great question. Is it self-awareness if you don't know why you should be? No, I think no, because even though I knew to keep this secret, my shame forever, there was a lot of stuff like my love of performing in local theater when I was a kid and love of singing in choirs and stuff as a kid. That didn't become embarrassing to me for a long time, which is like a precious thing that I'm really glad about. But like, if you're not to date myself, but if you're a kid who's bad at sports but really into singing musical theater, 1990s New Jersey is not kind to you. It's not. It wasn't cool then the way it is now. When I would like come into school and brag like, guess who's a fucking munchkin? No one was into that.
One was like, oh damn, up top.
I wish I had your courage to perform on stage. No one was
I
ever
don't know how to
thinking
make
that.
myself vulnerable like you.
I'm bullying you,
No.
but only because I wish I had your bravery.
yeah, sure. Yeah,
I didn't-
that'll affect things. You
Yeah.
didn't-
I didn't know to be ashamed of certain things. But here's the pivot with the clay figures that I think moves it away from being creepy, becomes more of a brand thing and more of like a long walk to what I was actually trying to accomplish. Is that I started. I would take my parents' video camera and I would stay up late and film stop motion clay movies with my friends as like the cast of Saturday Night Live, where I'm essentially like ripping off sketches completely. And I made the insane decision of like, instead of making Will Ferrell out of clay, or indeed instead of making Harry Carey, Will Ferrell's long-standing impression of Harry Carey out of clay and doing a sketch show, I was like, no. This is going to be my buddy Matt made of clay doing Will Ferrell's Harry Carey. That's the most efficient way I can think of achieving my dreams of making a sketch show starring my friends, which is
That's quite beautiful.
It's too many steps. It's way too many steps.
But it's sweet, and it is truly very reflective of you today, or what your trajectory has been like as an adult. I mean, that's literally how we know each other.
Yes.
Is you writing sketches for me to perform.
Right, for all of my buddies to do things.
Like, we spent a significant chunk of our adult lives just doing that.
Just
having
being
you write
clowns.
us things, being clowns and funny things. And
Yeah.
That
It's the
is
kind
sweet.
of thing that I was like an energy that I didn't really know what to do with at the time, and I was just the same with the disposability of the monthly Daniel newsletter. I would tape these things, and like doing stop motion claymation is a very time consuming thing. I would stay up late doing it, then I would watch the tape of what I just made and be like, all right, good. And then I would
We
tape
got
over it. Tape over
you
it the
tape
next day.
over it.
Absolutely tape over it every time. So it was like,
Oh.
I wasn't showing this to my parents. It was just like for me, just to do a thing, and like
That is odd.
sort of
Sweet.
No, I think now I'm definitely rewriting my history, but like this is going to sound rude to art broadly, but like the disposability of ideas and jokes, I think like from a very early age was like fine with me, and that has like informed my life as someone who like fired content into the Cracked void for years before
Yeah.
Cracked was successful. And like the nature of Last Week Tonight, where I work now, so much of it is a volume game of just like writing a million jokes for every setup, knowing that best case scenario they're going to pick one, and sometimes they pick none, and you have to throw more jokes at it. That's never been a style of writing and creation that was like particularly frustrating to me, because I've always felt like, make the thing, put the thing out there, hopefully people see it, okay, make the next thing, keep going.
That's actually very, very, very good training, and something that I don't have. I've worked to develop. It can be hard. You've put work into something and it's vulnerable, and you're putting it out there and it doesn't land. And it took me a long time to understand that it just doesn't all work. And it might be it might be a very funny joke. It might be a very funny bit, script, whatever, but it's not working for this specific thing. I also know, like, there's stuff that we've made that I've been like, ugh. But it hits, you know, and people love it. And so there's like a lack of preciousness, but that's always been hard for me to overcome, because I grew up being like, please cast me in things. But you developed that superpower from a young age. It is interesting to tape over every single one and not show it to anybody, but that wasn't what it was about for you. It wasn't about...
It was just, I wanted to make funny sketches and didn't have the vocabulary to know how to ask for that, and you know, like, I don't know when UCB as like a school that would teach you specifically about improv and sketch writing, that kind of thing. I don't know when they started. If they were around in early 90s, word was not getting back to New Jersey. Like the idea of theaters that were training you for specifically sketch didn't exist, right?
Yeah.
Sketch was for Saturday Night Live or Mad TV, and I just didn't, there was no like, it was a thing I wanted to play with, but I didn't know how to get there. Local theater and like eventually high school improv was I thought the only way to do it. Even like the local theater itch was probably just trying to find some route around to like sketches and sketch writing. But we just didn't. If you're a kid who likes SNL so much and you have no connection to UCB or Second City or Groundhog's Day, Groundlings, then you just don't know what to do with that energy. And there's a part of it that's like, well, I guess this dream just dies then because there's nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
But it didn't die.
It didn't die. You made it. You made it. Not only you made it your dream of reality. Literally, I cracked.
Yeah.
Which is similar.
Yeah.
To Mad.
I
Similar.
I have follow-up questions to your quick answer.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but
sure. No, I won't.
Pivoting from here's your newspaper where you draw and you report on the news and you try to take down your corrupt
Penny.
neighbors and
old lady.
Immediately pivoting to a stage. Is that representative of young Katy? Were you jumping from thing to thing, or did your parents, when your parents saw you making a newspaper, did they think we should get her some journalism classes? Or did they think this is just the next thing?
This is just the next thing. I mean, I think that I'm very different from my older brothers in every way imaginable. And I think that it was like, let's see what she does next. But theater was a thing that I was involved with since, I don't know, 6 or 7. I did my first play, and then I got at a little elementary school stupid thing. I mean, amazing, great performances all around. But then, theater camp and doing that. And throughout high school, I was actually doing independent study and doing plays at our local theater during the school year. And so that part, this is school. But I was very precocious and I was always writing. I think that was all a big part of the soup of me. I will take it a little sadder and say that I think we all have there's things that have happened in our childhood or family dynamics, and my family is amazing, but we all have them. And I think a coping mechanism for me, or a thing I developed, is wanting to be cheerful, not feeling good when people are maybe a bit down. And this is definitely still true for me to this day. I work on it. It is not my responsibility to manage other people's emotions. But that's what I was doing. I think I had an awareness, not to rewrite history, but I was pretty clued into other people's emotions. I think I had an awareness that I made the situation worse for my family by being so upset about it. And
I don't know how true that is.
I don't know how true that is, but I know that my parents don't ever want to let me down, and I was being very stuck in. I was stuck in my position of we can't let this tree go, and the squirrels. Where would the squirrels live? So I felt like I wanted to turn the mood around, but also I got a huge laugh, and that will carry me.
Absolutely,
huge laugh. Although, then the story kind of continues. Penny, I don't think she's alive anymore. I think it's okay for me to say her first name.
Sure.
Went on a big bender after that. She got really depressed that I had written about her in my newspaper.
Really?
And she showed up at my house drunk like a week later, crying and apologizing to my parents. And I remember being in the hallway like, ooh, this is not the outcome I wanted.
Holy shit.
I know. She was just drunk for a week after that.
But like,
so I felt bad about that, but also a little bit like, well, that's what you get. Oh, but then wait a minute, I'm gonna lose my remorse because now I'm just remembering about a year later she did it to another neighbor too.
Oh, okay.
On the other side. You know what? Take it back. Fuck you,
Yeah.
Penny. Hater of trees.
I was falling for Penny a little bit because I thought like no one is listening to this little girl who's trying to save the tree except for this one woman. Like she was the only audience member for which your subscription package had like found purchase, and she was like,
she was the first delivery of that issue. But she did turn around and do it to another neighbor. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Wow.
But yeah, that does reflect me in lots of ways. Now everybody knows my psyche and some of my issues, and that I try to manage people's emotions. No,
that's what the show is about. The show is therapy. It's always been where we come and do therapy and we unpack trauma and we do some healing and change the world and save lives.
Oh, that's very lofty.
Yeah. I mean, we don't think
it's great.
So. Just because
you
it's
don't
what
think
we
so
do
because
every
you're
week.
so humble.
Yeah. I think what else would you do with a platform if not unpack trauma, heal wounds, save world a little bit?
Save the world. Just a little bit, though.
A tiny bit.
You can't put that all on your shoulders.
No.
Yeah. Well, I feel healed. I hope everyone listening does.
That's good. When I texted you about this and you said you had the perfect answer, I don't think I could have imagined how perfect. I think it's so good. I'm very, very happy.
Oh, I'm happy with yours as well.
Thank you.
I don't know what comes next in this conversation, but I wanted to say that I was listening to your last episode about biking.
Oh, I also don't know what comes next because one of the fun fact about this show is that and this is only like 30% of a joke, we enter like a fugue state when we record, and neither of us has any idea what we end up saying. We've been recording our phone calls for like 5 years now, and especially once we added cameras, I could see him taking a sip of water, or he's like turning his head away, and I'm like, oh no, I now it's my turn to say something. I better open my mouth and hope it's something good. And that's like how the show gets made. So whenever someone reaches out to one of us afterwards to be like, hey man, I totally agree with you about the Khmer Rouge. I'm like, what did I say about the Khmer Rouge?
I have no memory of it. This is just fly by the seat of my pants.
I don't even have any thoughts.
Sometimes that happens to me. Someone like, I love what you said about blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I said something about that? What? I'm glad it landed. Or that sometimes it'll be like a really good quote and someone will have typed it up and made it a post on Instagram and tagged me. I'm like, you sure I said that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
People, I'm not on Twitter anymore, but that's happened on Twitter where someone would like
Twitter.
post. Yeah. I mean, not fully. I do the soft deletion where I deactivate my account and like there's some kind of internal clock that lets me know, because the way that Twitter works, after you deactivate your account, you have 30 days to log back in, and if you don't log back in within 30 days, then you lose everything completely. Right now, it just looks like my account doesn't exist anymore, but if I reactivated it, I would have all of my followers and all of my post history, and there's something inside me that has like logged me back in roughly once every 30 days just to preserve that. But then I get back on and I spend 30 seconds on it and I'm like, this is not a place that I want to be, and I leave it.
It's ugly and bad.
It's ugly and bad. And I miss a version of Twitter that doesn't exist anywhere anymore.
I do too, so badly. And I just have to part with it. It's like any sort of breakup or loss. There's a grieving process, I guess. I'm not grieving it anymore, but I was at first. I haven't done that. That's a good idea. I barely even remember to retweet our stuff anymore. Because I hate logging on. It just feels like it costs my senses at all. Like, it makes me feel sick.
Yeah, it's like fully unpleasant to be on, and also like some of the times I'd logged on with intention, it would be like, oh, the Academy Awards are airing right now. I want to see if my old Twitter friends are still having fun. And like, I had an idea for a joke that I wanted to make about the Tonys or the NBA Finals, whatever it is. And then I will log in and remember, oh, it's not really the place for this anymore. You know, it's not that it's
definitely not
just that I can't find the people who are having fun on Twitter. That's just not the vibe anymore. There's all like every once in a while
it would
they'll
be
get
the
some
place if you wanted to tweet something extremely mean or cruel that would enrage people.
Right. And
if that was your take on the Tonys.
I don't want to do that. So I have nowhere to put those particular jokes, which is fine. I could just keep them or just not make them.
But do you? Well, see, you write joke. I do jokes and pitch jokes, but it feels different now. I feel like a little less sharp without that. For me personally, it helped at the beginning of the Somewhere News journey. I mean, it felt like a much better place to get news and to look at people's conversations, to see opinions I liked and didn't like, reasonable. I mean, it wasn't always reasonable. There's always been a cesspool element to it, but it could be. But also was a place where you could workshop jokes, where I became a bit better of a writer, not in terms of overall structure of an idea, but in terms of trimming the fat, getting to the point, and, you know, having a paced out joke. I found it to be incredibly helpful, and it built my confidence until it then systematically crushed my confidence.
Yeah.
Now I could tweet something innocuous and get so many like, "You're a fucking hack, you should die." What?
Yeah.
I agree on the first part, but not the second.
You are not a hack, and you should never die.
I know.
I don't know if you've started listening to Jamie Loftus' new miniseries, 16th Minute of Fame. It's really, I mean, I love everything that Jamie does.
She touches.
And she is going through like her handpicked versions of like viral main character of the day. A lot of people from Twitter often, obviously, because that's where main characters used to go viral. And one of the more recent episodes was about a woman in 2022 who had posted, like, "There is nothing I like more than sitting in my garden with my husband and drinking coffee and talking to him for hours. We do it every single day. Send tweet." And there are people, even 2022, the writing was already on the wall for Twitter, that there are people who are like, "Wow, this fucking entitled, you have no idea. Not all of us have the disposable income to sit in our gardens with our husbands." And people who were like, "This is insulting to people who are single." And just like, that's like the most appropriate negative reaction you should have to someone talking about wanting to have coffee in their garden with their husband is to just roll your eyes privately and ignore it. Like, that's on the spectrum of reactions. That's totally fine. It shouldn't get any more negative than that. But Twitter has like turned into the strange outrage machine. And Bridget Todd, who's a journalist and podcast host, was saying that, like, we all know that everyone's brains broke a little bit in COVID, but one of the ways that she believes it manifested on Twitter was people who were just like seeing people die all the time and seeing people suffer all the time and just feeling like, I would also like to be seen as someone who is suffering. And Twitter became a really great outlet for that. If someone posted something that you could do a bad faith reading of it to be attacked by it, it was like, okay, good. Now I can be suffering too. And like the suffering is like not specific to the coffee in the garden. It's like a broader and very real suffering, but it was just sort of like laser focused, targeted on these very undeserving, I'm going to use the word target again, targets that became so insanely popular on Twitter. And then, of course, algorithm reasons made Twitter worse.
Absolutely.
I'm wrapping myself up on Twitter discourse because there's, you know.
No, it's interesting. I mean, people starting to get sick of us talking about it, so I haven't in a minute on our show. But yeah, I think that that's a really interesting point, and it is true that it became, that kind of a space where we're focusing on suffering, and then people have been suffering. Yeah. And also just the internet in general, wonderful invention in so many ways. just truly astounding. And I do not think that our fragile human psyches have evolved in such a way that we are meant to absorb all the news of the world and to have to care. I mean, I care about everybody, I do, but like I'm supposed to care about the people in my immediate community. Yeah. I'm supposed to care about the things that I can have control about and care and have empathy, but it's hard because now I know. Right. Now I know about this thing that's happening and I can't stop thinking about it. And there's something in me that's like, but maybe I can fix it. Maybe something I do can make this better, but I can't. I mean, I can try. I can talk about things. That's why I feel like talking about the news, I can control that. I can control my opinion. But at the end of the day, it's like, where do we draw the line in terms of personal responsibility? I don't know. Yeah. Now I'm meandering too, but there's something about that I think. And then again, the algorithm specifically being designed more and more so to foster arguments. That's what engagement means now, is people being angry instead of people being delighted. Yeah. I remember being able to share a sweet story on Twitter and it being a good thing, and people saying like, you know what, I had a bad day and that made me feel better.
Not anymore.
That's gone.
Those
Not
days
anymore.
are gone.
So I don't do it at all.
You know, do I want to say a wacky thing about Twitter, or do I want us to get back on track? That's a big decision.
I don't know.
One quick thing that I learned about Twitter from this same Jamie Loftus show is, and she ran an experiment to confirm this, but if you actually take the time to, because the way Twitter used to work is you would curate your own feed, the people you follow would post, and you would see what the people you chose to follow either posted or retweeted from someone else. It was a flawless system, and it was great for everybody. It has pivoted to an algorithm generating what it thinks you want to see based on what's popular and based on whatever magic juice flows through algorithms. And what they learned in this experiment was that if you got one of these things that the algorithm forced you to look at, you can click a button that says, I don't like this kind of content. You can say, like, as a way to try to recurate your own feed again. And if you do that, the algorithm will send you more of that, because enjoyment
if you say I don't want it?
Yes, because enjoyment is not the goal, like engagement is the goal somehow. So even you like taking the time to click I don't like this or click X on it is like, it's the same reason YouTube loves their little skip ad button, because it forces you to, for a while, spend 5 seconds looking at an ad before you click skip, because
that's kind of brilliant.
A commercial,
and awful,
you can walk away and go to the bathroom during a commercial, but if you have an ad and it's like, all right, I have to listen, I have to hear about Brooks running shoes for 5, 4, 3. I'm like locked into that ad more so than I'd be if I just walked away.
And now Brooks running shoes is in your mind if I want running shoes. Yeah. Absolutely. That is very gross. I did not know that if you specifically, because that was like the big advice at first, just click not interested.
Yeah.
Sorry. But yeah, I guess it's not surprising. I did not know that. It's not surprising based on my experiences of like, I thought I said no more Elon Musk.
Yeah.
I thought I muted him. I thought, I mean, I was right. I did, but it didn't help.
Yeah. All right. Now here's the other wild thing. I got us off track. You were talking about bikes?
Oh, I had just listened to it, and I resonated to your story about, you got into a bike kerfuffle accident a while ago, and then finally got back on a bike recently.
I broke my wrist and had a metal plate and 28 screws, and you downgraded that to kerfuffle.
Kerfuffle.
I was riding my bike to church and got in a traumatic accident that you
sorry.
Katy.
Cancel Katy. How dare you, privileged elite from your car, calling it a kerfuffle? I didn't fall in a ditch. I broke my bones. A major kerfuffle on your way to church. And took you a while, and you started riding a bike, and then were nervous. You wanted to test it out, and you did fall. Yep. But because you were acting a fool a bit or something.
Correct.
Like you were doing something fancy. Okay. Well, recently, this isn't a great story. I just related to this. I I am seeing somebody, a very outdoorsy person, and bikes and does all this stuff. And I went to visit, and it was like, yeah, let's go for a bike ride. And I'm like, I haven't ridden a bike in a long time since I was a kid, and I would ride my bike to school, and I hit a pothole, and I went over the handlebars. And I'd kind of forgotten just what a kerfuffle but I was like
it was.
what a kerfuffle it was, indeed. But I was playing it cool. I'm like, yeah, I'm a tough girl. I'm going to do this. It's fine. I was terrified, Daniel. Well, it didn't help that I started off by going downhill, but I had a full-on panic attack. I was like hyperventilating. I had tears streaming down my face. I was like, this is going so poorly. My bike's like this. I didn't have a bad accident, but I did kind of, I kept like, he'd be like, what are you doing? He wasn't mean, but he's like, you're really leaning hard to the right. You look like you're about to fully tip over. It was so scary. He was like, it's just like riding a bike. I'm like, yeah, just like riding a bike. This is going great. Anyway, it's not a great story. It is like
riding a bike. It's dangerous and there are accidents everywhere.
The last time I did it, I hurt myself badly.
Yes.
Anyway, that's all. It wasn't a story. I just was relating hard to being close to our 40s and getting on a bike and aware of the danger.
I think that is a story, and I think, what are we doing here if not trying to find common ground and relate even to people as different as you and me?
As different as us, on different sides of the country.
Well, that is looking at the clock. I'm sorry you were scared, and I'm glad that you got back on the bike, or if you decide to never get back on the bike again, I'm glad about that too.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And thank you for joining us. I'm going to wrap us up now, but do you have... We're so bad at our own plugs because we're both off Twitter at this point, and neither of us can remember what our Instagram handle is. So while I track that down, do you have anything you would like to plug?
Sure.
Great.
Well, yeah, we've got our show Some More News that I do with Cody Johnston, also from Cracked. He hosts a show, and I play a very abusive character on it, and sometimes host. And then we have our podcast, Even More News, which is a weekly news show where we try to limit the bullshit talk, but there is some bullshit talk as well. And in the near future, we're going to be doing way less news, which will also be us. And it's very fun. I enjoy the shooting the shit format. The other thing that we're starting to experiment with, and I'm not sure, maybe this week will be the first one, is doing our own version of the video podcast. It was always daunting for us because when we do our news podcast, we edit it and release it the next day. So editing video to go along with it sounds like a lot. But we're doing it. And so pretty soon you'll be able to watch Even More News on the YouTube channel.
That's something exciting to look forward to.
It is. And
I love your shows. Even More News is like a platonic ideal podcast format for me. I'm always jealous the few times that you've had me on because I feel like you have a great secret weapon in Jonathan, who is
Jonathan.
First of all, great voice for podcast.
Right?
Second of all, just someone who's going to come in and like tell you what's going on so you can respond to it.
I cannot tell you how much my life has improved. It was fun when it was just Cody and I, but I would do that and I would feel so anxious planning the show, doing the research, making sure people are recording properly, have the Zoom, like all this stuff, and then trying to be funny and host it. And then we hired Jonathan and he does so much so effortlessly. It feels like I'm taken care of. He provides a platform so that we can all thrive and be our best. And we are very grateful for Jonathan. Protect Jonathan at all costs.
Shout out Jonathan and check out.
And we got to get you back on.
Oh, I'd love
to.
Anytime.
Okay, now you do your plug.
You can find us. The show is Quick Question. You can find the show on Twitter at QQ_Soren and Dan. You can email us QQ@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram by searching. You can also find us on Patreon/Quick Question if you want to support. If you do support us on Patreon, you get a bonus episode twice a month that's shorter and looser than the structured stuff that we normally do. Our theme song is by the incredible Me Rex, who you can find at Bandcamp. And speaking of theme songs, we have a brand new, amazing theme song for just our patrons. If you go to Patreon and you subscribe, you can get our bonus content, which includes our brand new theme song. It's, I'm going to say, one of the best songs ever made. We are engineered, edited, produced by our CEO, president of podcast operations, Gabe Harder, who has a website called gabeharder.com that doesn't work. You can also watch this show on YouTube if you aren't doing that already. Our theme song is by the incredible Mirex. Track them down on Bandcamp. That is all I have left to say. Bye.
Bye.
I've got a quick question for you, alright? I wanna hear your thoughts, I wanna know what's on your mind. I've got a quick question for you, alright? The answer's not important, I'm just glad that we could talk tonight. So what's your favourite? How did you get? When will I be remembered? Was it ever? Where did all go? How do we know? Oh, forget it. Soren, Bowie, Daniel O'Brien. Two best friends and comedy writers. If there's an answer, they're gonna find it. I think you'll have a great time here. I think you'll have a great time here.